but medical records. We don't store medical data on blockchain. We actually do everything that is necessary to manage your healthcare using blockchain.
Great, so the main question on this panel, how blockchain can cause the change, and I would suggest that every panelist will shoot like one impact that blockchain and decentralization cause. So you have to be really short, and then we will argue, and maybe we will ask audience to vote what they believe is the next big thing. So Pradeep, I will start with you, please. Your version.
So our value proposition on using blockchain, which is really a technology for distributed ledger, is around preventable suffering around diseases. So we are focused on solving problems like preventable heart stroke in type 2 diabetics who are over 55 and have a heart condition, suicide prevention from clinical depression that goes undiagnosed, preventative care during pregnancy to prevent early childhood problems, lifelong problems in children. Death during pregnancy. These are all conditions that require a team. Healthcare is a team sport and is very poorly coordinated. So we see blockchain as an extraordinary tool to reduce this preventable human cost and suffering.
So you're trying to save us from zombie apocalypse, right?
We are trying to save us from needless suffering that our parents, our children, our wives, our loved ones go through, which medicine can prevent, but we don't have timely access and timely intervention.
Okay, then Rod, please, your version.
Catalyst for change, right? So we had a good conversation earlier, and we talked about how many projects are going to change the way we live and how blockchain is going to affect humanity and all the different processes. The question we had really was what applications are relevant right now, and I think we're coming to that point where our expectations are all these technologies we've been investing in the past 2-3 years. How many are going to be working and how relevant will they be in society? And this is going to be an exciting year. We're going to start seeing a lot of that.
Bina, please.
Yes, kind of beside the technology field, I think that the reason that the blockchain is the catalyst for change is that it's giving the opportunity for the lots of people who are not related to technology. Take it from me, I'm also, my previous career is much more related to content marketer, but I got to know this blockchain industry by organizing lots of the international conference, and I got to involve this industry. And that means that the blockchain technology only allows the opportunity to the people who are not familiar with the technology, but also providing the opportunity and chance to explore the new world.
Yeah.
So, biggest impact for blockchain. Again, we're seeing it in the emerging markets. So, give you a sense, our first project, and Rod asked, like, who has real projects? Does it actually work? So we built a digital identity with biometrics, a cloud wallet, and a whole transfer chain. Our first customer is the government of Indonesia, where we're moving literally the government subsidy over the chain to a biometrically verified identity. And if you will, we're seeing that's about $1.3 billion savings per year that the vice president of Indonesia thinks he can save. So we see emerging markets solving major problems.
Can I ask you a controversial question?
Please.
Can you do it without blockchain?
No, not if you actually want to have a chain that is auditable on a public ledger, and no if you actually want to have a user-owned identity. So we have two chains.
So audit, like transparent audit, plus identity that's owned by the user. Right. That's like key things that you...
Those are the two key things that we do and we see.
Okay, should I ask everybody the same question? We'll follow. Okay. Dr. Deng, please.
Yeah, we start the application of a blockchain in China with from two respects. One is for decentralized. Say, for example, everyone talking about blockchains are decentralized, right? But how to decentralize in China? Say, for mutual insurance, that is very natural use application for blockchain because there are so many agents get out the profit. So, in fact, for example, the car insurance in China, there's more than 100 insurance companies, but none of them make profit. And because more than 40% of the revenue was cashed by the agent, so they want to remove that agent and build a society of the mutual insurance for car users. So this is one typical one, typical application. We are now doing that, but this one needs some regulation. But what we're concerned about is another respect. That is, I call that multi-centralized system. That is, as for example, along a supply chain, there's many players, correct? Each player, I call that a central. So if you want, use blockchain to connect a whole supply chain from start to the end. For example, from say for tea industry, okay, you can connect from tea farmer, manufacturer, storage, logistic to the end. So product already be online is a container one. You see, we already digitalized 6 players of container shipping company in China. So we digitalized all the shipping companies, the port, and the container car driver, container truck driver. Say, for example, the Costco is the world's number 3 and the biggest shipping company in China, container. Say, if his one ship from port A to port B, maybe the ship has not enough room, has extra room for containers for its own business. But now another company has containers short of shipping. So if we can connect them by the blockchain, they can match each other. They can share the shipping capability, and also for each storage in the port, they also meet some problem. Without blockchain, no one will be connected because they are afraid of their resource being occupied.
So just to repeat the previous question, what makes it unique to use blockchain? So without blockchain, which features you would not be able to achieve?
Yeah.
Trust or like joint management of things, or what?
In fact, I think there's 3 basic functions for blockchain. First is tracing ability. Second one, copyright. The third one is most important. That is a clearing house. Say along the supply chain, all the companies either be the supplier or the customer. For each player, there should be some extra or shortage for the resource. So if we can use blockchain to connect all the players along the supply chain, so we can optimize the supplier and the demanding.
Okay.
That's it.
So I've been thinking about this topic for like 5 years, and I realized that we have to come up with a clear definition of blockchain that people can understand. And my definition is that it's the method of storage and synchronization of data between parties who don't trust each other. And then basically, depending on the level of trust, like there's still some between these participants, you select the environment and the consensus algorithm and so forth. So on the edge side is Bitcoin, where nobody trusts each other, and you cannot really know how many participants are reaching consensus, and there is no reputation. And if we talk about, let's say, blockchain between 5 banks that are doing reconciliation, it still makes sense. you need to use completely different consensus algorithm because they know each other, there is a legal enforcement mechanism and so on and so forth. So, and that's where the value comes from. The synchronization of data between parties who didn't trust before and will never trust, and they have to verify actions of each other. So that leads us to the use cases of blockchain. And actually, yeah, you all mentioned use cases that kind of like stem from this fact. And actually, I would like to ask Pradeep the same question. What makes the blockchain-based healthcare system unique? How can you explain? That's actually the big problem. I've been in the industry for like 5 years, and I hear what media says about blockchain, and it's a mess. It's like people are mixing up the Bitcoin blockchain, the blockchain technology, and the particular private blockchains or whatever. And we have to come up with a clear message to say what it is, why it's needed, what is ROI for the business to use these systems. Otherwise, they just look at us and say, oh, it's another whatever like token or currency. So what's your value proposition to your customers at the end?
So from a client perspective, they don't really care about blockchain. We never talk about blockchain when we talk to an insurance company or a government agency or a pharmaceutical behemoth who wants to launch certain disease-related programs. We talk about specifically the ability to coordinate disconnected parties that may or may not trust each other, may or may not even know each other, but need to come together around a healthcare episode. I have an accident. I don't really have a choice but to trust my doctor who's going to revive me while I'm in a coma, but I do need a certain coordination of benefits around that particular episode.
Okay,
I
so
developed diabetes, same issue.
Trust and coordination.
It's coordination, it's verification, it's auditability, and it's the ability to replicate data without me having a mainframe in my living room.
Okay, Rod, please, what's your explanation to it?
First of all, I think there's two sides of it. I think there's a force use case for blockchain for a company, but I think the other side of it is companies that really don't use blockchain but are using it to raise money. I mean, it's a different world out there, and the access to capital markets through STOs, which we all believe in here on this panel. I think 2019 we're very bullish on it, and finally there's intrinsic value for what you're buying in the token. It took me 2 years to get involved in the space. Because my biggest struggle was, what do you get when I get this token? What's the monetization model of these companies? And now we're starting to see full circle where there's value, there's companies that are relevant.
Become an investor.
Yeah, exactly. So you can use blockchain without having to use blockchain. So if you guys are running a big company and you want to tokenize a part of it and get access to capital in a much less frictionless way, blockchain is the way to do it.
So but without blockchain, it's all possible. It's just what differentiates the blockchain-based crowdfunding, crowd investing system?
It's faster. For sure. It's much faster. The process is better. The lack of regulatory certainty makes it a little easier, only because it's less stringent than your standard IPO.
Yeah, but that was because there was a hole in the regulation.
There still is.
Yeah, because it still is in some countries.
Yeah, there still will be. But I think one of the most interesting things about blockchain is you're going to see global markets where you don't see it in the regular stock market. So when you list on a NASDAQ, for example, or a Hang Seng index, or whatever the case is, it's very ISO relative to that.
So it is global because everybody can access the infrastructure and there is no single point of control.
It's a massive leap forward in inclusion, which allows an average person with data to be able to buy into that security.
Yeah, that's how we escape regulation. We make it in a way that nobody can catch us.
We don't want to escape regulation. I think we should embrace it.
I mean, that's what ICOs did at the end, yeah, like I believe. Yeah. Okay, Bina, please, what's your explanation of why you need blockchain platform?
Well, to be honest, I don't think the blockchain is a kind of catalyst for change. It's like some kind of tool, like the internet. And for the FLETA, we are the blockchain platform, but we are mostly likely to provide a better solution for developers. The developers can use a platform to provide and kind of operate the project or need a kind of stable and cost-effective the project on a platform. So that's the kind of, I think the blockchain is kind of one of the tools for developers to make this product better and much more cost-effective and stable.
It actually makes sense because developers were asking for tools. How can they program money for years, and banks, they cut them at the beginning because banks didn't provide any APIs. Like only now, like in Europe, this PSD2 says that banks must have it, but actually the same directive, they don't say that the API should be the same. So it's all different, and that's still a mess. So yeah, blockchain says, okay, the key, this transaction, so it kind of, people expect it to be like more or less like uniform.
Exactly,
Okay.
right.
Bob, your choice. How do you explain? Oh, you told it already.
Let me say.
Auditability and identity. Great.
We do a proof of authority network for identity where no one has the authority. So as you mentioned, the consensus algorithm, like in order to actually give a user ownership of the identity, like you had to make it so it's autonomous. It's essentially an autonomous organization.
Yeah.
And with that, you change all power. You change, can you verify who you say you are?
Okay, we have 10 seconds left, and just to wrap it up, I will show you my recent book. It wasn't released yet in English, but it will be in 3 weeks in Amazon. And actually here I come up with all these questions. Why do you need blockchain and which use cases? And it's a technical book, it's not a bullshit blah blah blah. Blockchain will empower and unleash, so I encourage you to look at when it's available. Thank you to everybody. It was a good discussion, and just I enjoyed the answers. So
I think everybody here that stayed this late deserves a free book, Pavel. All these wonderful people here.
In Ukrainian, right?
Yes. So if you want a free book from Pavel in Ukrainian, personally signed, come see him after the panel.
I have only one, and it's a test version. But I can send it later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.